on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Justin Jefferson not only has, 300 yards on Odell, he's got 300 yards on Randy Moss, and he's got more than Jerry Rice in his first 2 years. Cousins is back. You now add in Kevin O'Connell, who I spent time with this past weekend. He was at the McVay wedding as well. We're talking about Justin Jefferson and just what an outstanding player he is. He's only getting better. He's only getting better. Remember, he had that huge college season. They were like, is that a one-year wonder? Can he run a 40? Goes to the combine, runs a 4.3 40 when everyone was expecting a 4.5. Has an amazing rookie season in the COVID-shortened year, then has an even better sophomore season. Justin Jefferson's my number one over Jamar Chase.
Okay, did Peter Schrager just casually mention
Yes.
that he was at the Sean McVay wedding over the weekend getting drunk with Kevin O'Connell?
That's incredible.
Oh, my God, that was great. He was there, too, at the wedding from, oh, my God.
Was Jay Glazer there, too? Jay Glazer's pretty tight with a lot of coaches and players, right? This is how you become an NFL insider. You get drunk with these guys at weddings, and and you get invited back to more weddings, and you don't hang them out to dry too bad with your media platform. Was Schefter there? I don't think Schefter's on that type of terms with.
I don't think so. No, I think he's more of an informational guy. True, like he just no. I think the Glaze is your best bet.
Yesterday,
the Glaze does like MMA training with these players, right?
Oh God,
yeah, it's freaky. Yesterday, I was golfing yesterday, and there was a guy in my group that had like a Super Bowl towel on it, and I was like, "Oh, what Super Bowl is that?" Just like making conversation. He goes, "Oh, I was Super Bowl in Tampa 2 years ago." I was like, "Oh, are you a Bucks fan?" No, I just reffed in it. Just casually dropped. No, I was just a referee in it. Like the way he just casually dropped. It's like, I reffed it. It was like a 14-year NFL vet that I golfed with. He was a really cool dude.
Nice.
Okay, yeah. You floated us. You kind of teased this via text message. So how comfortable did you feel just peppering him with questions?
So I felt like I was.
Did he put the stiff arm up at any point?
No, but like me and my buddy that were there were just like, we kind of felt like we were annoying him a little bit with like all the questions we were asking him. He was a good dude. He was a 14 NFL vet. He did say he's an umpire and a line judge. So he does umpiring in the NFL, and he's a line judge sometimes too. He worked the Blair Walsh game. He wasn't at minicamp this week.
The Blair Walsh game?
Okay.
He refed. He was the umpire at the Blair Walsh game. That was
and
the
the
shank
umpire
at TCF.
stands right, so he was standing like center of the field watching that happen, right?
So he saw that ball just going wildly out of control.
And he said it was interesting. He like worked in the Big Ten for a while, but he said once you get to the NFL, you don't do anything else. Like you get to the cream of the crop of like referee standards, obviously, which is the NFL. Because I was wondering, like, well, do you do college or like even USFL or something? It's like, nope. Once you get to the NFL, you're good.
You asked an NFL ref if he works in the USFL.
I said, does he ref? What else does he do during the spring? Because like he only works 3 or 4 months out of the year. So I was wondering,
they've got real jobs.
I think he just says
if they want a real job.
Yeah, they can get real jobs. So like if he refs, then he's got a nice stockpile of cash somewhere.
What did he say about Kirk Cousins?
He said very, very business oriented. Doesn't say a lot. Very, very keeps to himself.
Yeah,
he said Rodgers and Favre are really cool. Like Rodgers is very business oriented, but also like you can tell he's a cool guy to talk to. And Favre was like, it was just like every other standard in the world, like backyard kid just playing football. Like just loved being out there.
Oh, I love it so much.
The genius there is the good ones work the officials well, because like you want them on your side.
I think Kirk just puts his head down, goes to work. It's just kind of the guy he is. Yeah.
I believe he said he's on Clay Martin's crew. So Clay Martin, who's like a known NFL ref, he's been on his crew like the last 5 years.
Okay.
That guy, now he's obviously, by having a Super Bowl towel on your golf bag, you're going to get questions like, you a football fan? And the first question is always going to lead down a path that gets to what he does for a living, right? But was he sort of dreading your line of questioning because he just didn't want to talk about it? Or was he inviting, is the towel on the bag an invite, whether it takes 2 questions or 10, for you to figure out at some point that he is an NFL referee?
It was a very curb your enthusiasm situation of like, do I keep asking him more questions? Do I just like, and then I casually started like mixing, golf, like, oh, do you golf other places? I kind of like was mixing in other, non-football related questions, the massage.
Come here much?
Yeah. Yeah, seriously.
You know what? His best play, when you said, are you a Buccaneers fan?
Yeah.
To say, yeah. Yeah.
Huge
Love
fan.
the Bucks.
You mean to
Love the
avoid
Bucks.
talking
To avoid
about
the
what he does?
conversation, yes.
But it sounds like he didn't want to avoid it. It sounds like.
Yeah.
I love how Declan, to be sneaky, like, you only want to ask football questions. But to throw him off the scent a little bit, to make him feel like you care about the rest of his life, you're going to ask him, so where else do you golf? You like to...
He had a brand new
you
driver.
like patty melts? What kind of
I
burger?
was like, oh, brand new driver. I go, yep, just got it
Oh.
last week. We were talking clubs. I was mixing in other things. Yeah, it was very important. You got to work your scoops.
Didn't he just want to golf?
He did. He definitely did.
I just wanted-
think
I-
by
I
the
would've
end of
wanted
it,
you to shut up.
I think by the end of it, he was sick of me and my buddy. We were even joking like, I think this guy's sick of us here. I think we have exhausted our resources.
Okay, so Des Bryant, was it a catch or no?
Yeah,
What do you
no.
think?
Yeah.
No, I would have just been like, hey, guys, you stay here. I'm going to tee off and just play solo for
Really
the
nice
rest.
guy.
No, that sounds miserable. I mean, I'm glad that you got the information that you did, but I'd prefer not to be talked to in that situation, to be honest with you.
That's why Judd hasn't golfed in 20 years. Just wants
Oh,
to
God, I
avoid
would never
human
golf with a
contact
group that I
people.
didn't know. I would never join. I've never thought that that's fun.
This, by the way, in case you're wondering, is Purple Daily Vikings
That's right.
entertainment. We just want the
Forgot.
Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. And no matter what you watch, TCL has award-winning TVs for any budget, any space, all with stunning picture quality. And TCL makes more than just TVs. They offer mobile products, audio devices, and home appliances. Find out more at TCL.com. I know Declan's about to slap a 50-inch TCL TV on his wall in his new apartment. Hire a guy.
Excited.
Hire a guy.
I've had some nice wins in the apartment this last week. I built a bar cart. I got a new bidet on the toilet. But in terms of hanging a TV, no.
I love
System
how you rank
quarterback.
attaching a bidet to the piping of the
Yeah, you have to
apartment.
like undo the
as
seat.
an
There's
easier
some work
task.
in there. There's some work in there. You can mess up that's unremoving the water line. There is some risk involved there.
Coming
okay?
from a guy that jammed a nail into a septic pipe a few weeks ago and had sewage water spraying all over his wife's office. Yeah.
so gross.
Hire a guy. So, all right, the world has been ablaze because of Chris Sims' quarterback rankings throughout the past month, and he has gloriously slow cooked it. I don't even know if he's gotten to the top 5 quarterbacks yet, to be honest.
I think
saw
he's
he had
at-
Rodgers at like 6 or something.
Yeah, I think we might be down to the final 4 or 5 now. Yeah, I think that's right.
But
for this week.
but his embracing of quarterback rankings has sort of piqued our interest for what can we bring some level of rankings or excitement about lists during this offseason to Vikings fans. And so I started just in my free time because I'm a nerd ranking the 20 current best Vikings. So not historically, but on the current 53-man roster, I guess 90-man roster during the offseason. Who are the 20 best Vikings? And I'd like to unveil 16 through 20 on today's show.
I was going to say, you're going to give us all 20?
right.
Not how this
We're going to
works.
unveil, we're going to have 20 days, just number 20 today. We'll talk for 40 minutes about, no, I'm just kidding. So I have ranked the 20 best current Vikings, and we'll spend today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday dissecting and discussing. Maybe you guys are going to disagree. If you guys, the listeners out there want to put your own rankings out, throw them in the YouTube comment section, hit us up on Twitter. Are you guys ready? Do you have any questions? Any sort of, I just like to sort of throw these names out and
Not at all.
see where
Let's
we go.
go. Let's hear them.
All right, let's fire the music up and let's rank the 20 best current Minnesota Vikings. And I will say positional value matters a little bit, but like quarterbacks are the most valuable. And then you could say left tackles or whatever, right? It was less about position value and was more about how good are you relative to your position. So if you are the best at your position, but there's another guy that's 4th best at his position, if your position's more valuable, it doesn't really factor in.
Okay.
So number 20 on my list, Alexander Mattison. I think he might have been higher up until last year, actually. Last year was a little bit of a struggle for old Alexander Mattison. Only 3.7 yards per attempt last year, but overall for his career, he's averaging 4.7 yards per touch as a pass catcher and as a runner. And that's actually higher than Zeke Elliott has been at the last 2 years with the Cowboys, and he's been their starting running back. So at one point, I think Alexander Mattison would have been potentially the 3rd best running back in this division a year or two ago. Probably no longer. He's been in the league for 3 years now. I don't think he's ever going to be a high-end starter, but you can rely on him for a month while Dalvin Cook is banged up. He can catch passes. He can play on 3rd down. He can run the ball. He's a good, serviceable running back who can start for stretches. Alex Mattison, number 20.
So what I'm curious about with this is, among all the players that we've talked about, how the O'Connell offense is going to use them, this one to me is intriguing. Because, like, we know that Cook is being, Cook's the star here, and we know that he has been at different times split out wide. And, like, there's a lot of things with Cook that you could certainly get more creative than the previous OCs did, and I think O'Connell will. But is Mattison, when he replaces Cook at times, and to Phil's point, it could be for games, is he going to step into that role and be trusted with the same things? Is he going to be more of just a conventional back because he's good but not probably great? So he could definitely, in this offense, increase his positioning on your list by a year from now. But I feel like we have not discussed or really thought about how much he is going to be used and used in different ways, like we've certainly talked about Cook being used in different ways.
Yeah. Yep. I think those are all fair questions. And he's in his prime still. He's going into year 4. I don't think he's a guy that you're going to re-sign after the year. This is a contract season for Alex Mattison. Mm-hmm. I don't see this front office on the hook for a lot of money with Dalvin Cook still beyond 2022. Even if you deal him, like, you're going to have a lot of dead cap on your hands. Yep. I just don't see them tying up a lot more money. Mattison, for what he was drafted, was it 3rd round, somewhere in there?
Was he second or
might have been a second rounder?
I'll check. I got it right here.
But I don't think you should feel obligated if you find a running back and he's a good, solid player for you as a starter or a backup. I don't think you should feel peer pressure to give him a boatload of money. I think you say, awesome, thank you so much for 4 years. You were rock solid. Let's go find the next Alex Mattison. And they may have with the North Carolina kid that they drafted in the 5th round this year.
Third round.
So, 3rd round pick.
Alex Mattison?
Alex Mattison. Yeah. The last thing, too, is beyond Cook, I'm very curious about this one. What type of value is this coaching staff and front office going to put on that position? And I'm not saying that the players won't be important and won't be used in different packages. But, again, I really feel like the new wave of thinking in this league is not to sign Dalvin Cook to the contract that he got from the previous administration with Rick and Mike. And so I think you might be onto something, Phil, as far as there's a very good chance that when this team is doing their positional value charts in, 2 years, that they're not like, oh, man, Dalvin Cook, we got to sign him again, or here's the next Cook. They might say, let's find very talented players at that position, but really the reality is history tells us that that's not a position at which you sign a guy to a substantial contract like Dalvin Cook got.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong here, we keep doing the Rams comparison thing because that's the system and the philosophy that's being brought over here. Maybe this is more of a front office comparison with Kwesi, but the Rams signed Todd Gurley to a big extension, I think early in Sean McVay's tenure, because I think he'd been around for 2 or 3 years, and then they inked him to the extension, and it didn't work out. And he got hurt, and he wasn't the same player, and then he was gone like 2 or 3 years in. And the last 2 seasons, including a Super Bowl winning season, the Rams have said, you know what, let's just kind of, we can't just put anyone back there, but we'll swing a trade for this guy over here. We'll go find this guy in a mid-round over there. I don't think they're itching to get back into a Dalvin Cook-like contract for a running back. Agreed. So we'll have to see what happens at that position. So Alex Mattison, number 20 on the 20 best current Vikings list. Number 19, we're going to go to the other side of the football, into the trenches with a hand in the dirt.
Oh.
DJ Wonnum, who led the Vikings last season in sacks and pressures. 8 sacks and 42 pressures last season for DJ Wonnum. He also had 7 tackles for loss. I think the question for DJ Wonnum is, has he sort of, in year 2, did he reach his ceiling? Is he just a really good rotational player? And this is going to be sort of what he is? Or is he an ascending player that has even more? Because as a sophomore in college, he had a 13.5 sack season in the SEC and then never quite got back to that level in his last 2 years in college. So there's a guy in there who can get after the quarterback, and he has shown flashes of it. So DJ Wonnum, 19th on my list.
Don't sleep on the importance as well of guys exactly like this, because the Vikings are going to have guys get hurt who are good. It happens every year to every team. But I think one of the biggest talking points right now is going to be what is especially defensively, how good is your depth, right? Because, you can't expect Hunter's going to play 17 games. Be nice. And Zadarius Smith, 17 games. It'd be nice, but the reality is you're going to have guys get hurt. And in the two players that I just brought up, you have an injury history that is somewhat concerning. So for the Vikings' sake, you better be right about this. Because, if he's just a flash-in-the-pan guy, and I have no idea, but, if he's oh, man, he's not that great or he's not that good in the new system, that's a major problem. So the Vikings better be praying that where you put him is about right, because if that's the case, you've got a guy who certainly will provide valuable rotational depth and, more importantly, could eventually start.
Yeah. Yep, I think, at the very least, if this is who he is, he's a great asset for you. He's not a guy that you're going to expect to take over Danielle Hunter level productivity. And I think it's funny because in the old system, you can kind of plug him in and he can take over for Danielle Hunter positionally, not effectiveness. I don't know that that's the case in this system. We're going to have to sort of find out what, like you said, what he looks like in this system. So DJ Wonnum, number 19. Before we get to number 18, let's say hello to our friends at Valley Park Medical Clinic. Okay, guys, this doesn't have to be an embarrassing conversation. We're talking about ED. Plenty of guys all throughout the country, and we're talking about guys in the greater Minneapolis area here, are suffering from this issue. And Valley Park is the only clinic in Minnesota to use the True Pulse protocol, one of the most effective solutions for ED available. The treatments are surgery-free, drug-free, and non-invasive. I think non-invasive is a very, very good phrase to hear when you're talking about that region for men. The Valley Park Medical Clinic team will work with you in a discreet manner as well. valleyparkmedicalclinic.com. That's valleyparkmedicalclinic.com. Judd, you have kept the weight off for, my God, half the year here for sure. I mean, when did you reach your peak weight loss? November, December last year, and now we're 6 months into the new year?
Yep. And that of course, is thanks to my friends at Livia Weight Control Centers who have helped me not only take the weight off. I started, I believe, last October or September, but they have, and this is the most important thing, helped me keep that weight off. And yes, as you can see from the picture, the guy on the left, he looks a little bit like Santa Claus. I'm not going to lie. Looks a little bit like ho, 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 Santa Claus. The guy on the right, lean, mean, fighting machine. Why? Because of my friends. And look, right now, I want you to join because the offer is this, the Simple Start Plan, only $59. It provides all the tools that you need for success, including one-on-one guided support online or in person, led by the team of experts, including registered dietitians and nutritionists. Simple Start Plan, $59. How do you start? It's this simple. LIVEA. Livia.com, 855-GO-LIVEA, Livia, LIVEA.com. As Phil just said, they not only help you take the weight off, and it's simple as can be, but just as importantly, or perhaps more so, they help you keep the weight off. Livia.com. If I can do it, so can you. Call them today.
The 20 best current Vikings. We are up to 18 here, boys. Mm-hmm. And he's a new addition to the team. I'm sliding a new player in to this list. Who wasn't a Viking last year. Okay. Chris Reed, a league average right guard. And the funny thing about Chris Reed is he's not even running with the first team offense yet. Judd, you've been at mini camps and OTAs, and he's mostly taking backup center snaps right now. He's kind of alternating in at right guard, but he's not.
Jesse Davis, yes.
But he's not a starter right now. He has to
earn a
spot.
Correct.
So here's the good news. Chris Reed is a league average right guard, which is something we've been begging for years and years here. Pro Football Focus had Chris Reed ranked as the 41st guard out of 90 last year. Oli Udoh was 72nd out of 90. Drew Samia before that was near the bottom. Another thing for Chris Reed, Oli Udoh committed 16 penalties last year. Chris Reed played fewer snaps, but he only committed 3 for the Colts in 2021. So a league average right guard is 18th on my list. I think it'll go a long way towards stabilizing the offensive line.
I feel like you're placing Chris Reed 18th on your list is a combination of hope, which I don't blame you, and guard beer goggles. Because my God, like he might not be great, but you know what? He's not Udo. He's not a disaster. I'll be curious to hear the rest of the list and see who, especially at the back end, didn't make it because this might be too high. But I understand the need for hope because if they got this even a semblance of right, it changes things. If they didn't, we saw it last year, it's a massive problem.
Yeah, well, you can do some math here in that, there's 22 starters, and I'm ranking 20 Vikings. And so a lot of the starters are going to be on this list, although Alex Mattison's not a starter.
Yeah, and Chris Reed's not, snuck in. I'm just, I want to know this. Can the center hold up and at least decently, and I use the word decently, pass protect, and can the right guard situation just be fixed enough where it's not an eyesore? Like, we're not asking for a lot here.
No, we don't need a Steve Hutchinson would be nice. He's a left guard, but just need...
Yes, a Steve Hutchinson would be great.
Just a bunch of, just no weak links. No weak links is what we're aiming for here. All right, number 17 on the list. Again, technically not a starter, depending on what formation you're putting out here, but technically this guy is not a starter.
Okay.
KJ Osborn is 17th on my 20 best current Vikings, okay? So 50 catches for 655 yards and 7 touchdowns in his first full season with this offense. 2 drops only on 74 targets last year. That's pretty impressive. He actually had like one of the 25 or 30 lowest drop rates of any receiver in the NFL. He never went over 1,000 yards in college at Buffalo or Miami. And so I think, much like DJ Wonnum, the question is, are we seeing just a really good, solid contributor, kind of rotational guy here, and this is the ceiling, and that's fine, and he's effective, and he's going to be a part of this thing, or is there more? Is this a guy that, with another year and a better system, is he a number 2 wide receiver? I don't think anyone's looking at him as, a Justin Jefferson type, but does he emerge into that number 2 spot over the next 2 or 3 years when Adam Thielen's age continues to climb? Or is this kind of what he is, and he's a good, solid, rotational number 3 wide receiver, but 50 catches, 655, 7 touchdowns for KJ Osborn as a third receiver in a system that didn't exactly hunt for the third receiver with their scheme is pretty damn impressive. And in this system, they're going to run, if it's like the McVay system, they're going to run more 3 wide receiver sets than any team in the NFL not named the Rams. And so he's going to get opportunities. Your thoughts?
This one intrigues me. One, I think it's very, very fair. I think him being at this place in your list is fair. Here's where Osborn, where I wonder about this one. The Minnesota Vikings, when Rick Spielman took him 5th round, right?
Yes.
Okay. When Rick Spielman took KJ Osborn in the 5th round, they clearly misjudged the entire pick in this sense. They saw him as the solution as a returner, at which he was not good at all. I don't really think that there was a lot of thought given to this guy might blossom at the receiver spot, which he has done. Like, he had a good year and made tough catches. In some ways, I think he played a little bit more explosively, probably the Jarius Wright role. Like, not a real big guy, but he's solid, and I think he runs good routes, and I think he has, for the most part, reliable hands. I think 17 is very fair. This is one I wouldn't be surprised if he actually moves up. Because, when you think about the guys that are going to potentially benefit from what this team is going to do now, KJ Osborn, to me, leaps off the depth chart. Like this guy could be really good. And I don't think that means that we are to get confused and think, oh, he should ascend to a number 2. Could he be this? Could he be that? But don't you guys think that as the third receiver with Jefferson, Thielen, and let's say Kirk has time to throw, because Kirk, again, can throw a very nice football. I think KJ Osborn was surprising in 2021. I think he might start to potentially maximize those skills with this play calling in 2022.
Feels like there's an extra gear to his game, right? Like, if the floor is a 50-catch guy who can be a nice little third down conversion dude that just helps you stretch the field, great. But it even feels like there's another level that he hasn't unlocked yet. And it's hard to get all the targets if he's not on the field all the time with Thielen and Jefferson ahead of him.
Yep.
But it feels like he just kind of was scratching the surface last year, and there's actually more to his game.
Yeah. So KJ Osborn, number 17. I agree. All the things
That's
you
a
guys
good
are
one.
saying. System. It feels like there's some more here, and he could rise up. Because number 16 is technically on the way down, but still effective.
Uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
Patrick Peterson is the 16th best Viking on this roster.
Yeah.
Not the player he was. If you would have ranked the 20 best Cardinals players from 4 years ago, 5 years ago, he's probably in the top 5, maybe even top 3 in a couple of those years. So he's not the player he was a few years ago, but he's steady. He's a great leader. He has no problem seemingly helping young players, and just seems like, unless we're missing something, seems like a positive force in that locker room. Only 3 penalties in coverage all year in 2021. Mm-hmm. And even though this wasn't lockdown by any means, opposing quarterbacks had an 89 passer rating when targeting specifically Patrick Peterson, which is the exact passer rating Davis Mills had last year with the Texans. So, now Cam Dantzler has held opposing quarterbacks to a much lower passer rating than that even, and maybe you'll see him on the list at some point as we go forward. But Patrick Peterson, 16th on my list of the 20 best current Vikings.
So I think that's accurate probably as far as the overall game goes now, because he's reliable, he's good. He's certainly not the star that he once was with the Cardinals. But I will say this, I think that for this team to maximize its potential, which could be a playoff team, Patrick Peterson needs to be top 5 intangible-wise. Like, he is going to have to carry an incredible weight. I mean, he is, and should be, incredibly respected, right? Like, he is a voice in that room that is huge. He's seen a lot. He's done a lot. He was certainly, at one time, a star player. I think playing-wise and with where he's at right now, physically, and he's probably, realistically, in his last year here. But all of that being said, I think where you're putting him is fair. I think what we can't sleep on, though, is all the intangibles behind the scenes, basically showing the way he needs to be top 5 there. But as a player, 16, fair.
Yeah, Dax, Peterson at so give me your thoughts on Peterson at 16, then we can go through these 5 as a whole.
Yeah, I think Pat P means more off the field than he does on it right now in his career. He's still a solid cornerback. I think he's now a league average kind of guy, and has potential to maybe be an NFL Hall of Famer. But he's over the hill at this point in his career. And Cam Dantzler, when he finally got on the field last year, was pretty damn good. I'm actually curious to see where Cam Dantzler ranks on Mackey's top 20 Vikings as we debut him throughout the week. But Pat P, I think, means more to that locker room, and that's why he wanted to come back here. I'm sure there were other offers. But I think him at 16 is fair. It's pretty fair for his career.
So Patrick Peterson, 16. KJ Osborn, 17. Chris Reed, 18. DJ Wonnum, 19. And Alexander Mattison, 20th, as we unveil the first 5 of the 20 best current Vikings.
How difficult was the decision to leave, and you don't have to tell us, obviously, but 21, 22 to 20, how difficult was that line to draw?
It's a good question, Judd. I don't want to give too much away.
I know, but I'm just saying, was it difficult?
I want the listeners
I don't want you to give it away. I want you to say,
over the rest of my list.
I don't want you to give the names. I want to know, was it difficult to draw that line?
There were some, yes. Obviously, I'm leaving some starting caliber players off the list here. Because technically, KJ Osborn and Alexander Mattison aren't starters. When Osborn's a starter in this offense, just because they're going to run 3 wide receivers. But
I hear you.
Yeah, I would say it was hard, but it wasn't hard at the same time.
Okay,
I'll go to that step. I think there's a couple players on here too that I think will be on this list, maybe even halfway through the season.
Okay,
but I'm not going to give too much
Kirk
away. It was hard leaving Kirk off my top 20 list.
Kirk's at 22. Yeah. Just tell the truth, damn it. Kirk's at 22.
Kirk Cousins, 21.
I just couldn't
close.
put him on.
I just feel like, Alexander Mattison's contributions to the offense were tough to ignore. Sorry, Kirk.
And
maybe a new
5,
system will vault Kirk into the top 20.
Sean Mannion. Number 4, Kellen Mond. Great hope for the future.
Oh, man. Yeah, is Kellen Mond even going to make the team at this point?
Dude, I don't know. This is such a good question. I have no idea. Yes, I think he's going to. His head he's swimming. I don't know. Like, they didn't draft him, right? And so they're not going to say, well, we've got to. I think he makes the team, but I certainly, if my life was on the line, would not guarantee it right now.
Now he's learning his second system in 2 years and trying to get used to life in the NFL. I don't know.
Well, if he's got no chance here, do you just string him along and keep him? I mean, I don't,
Oh, well, maybe he'll show up on the list. You'll have to see. Well, we will unveil 5 more tomorrow.
Love it.
On Purple Daily. We're going to get to what are people saying about the Vikings here, including, I did not see this one coming from ESPN.com here in just a brief moment, but let's say hello to our friends at Underdog Fantasy. We have discovered the best and easiest way to play fantasy sports and get a sweat on games. Let's start with the pick'em games. For instance, you can pick over or under on your favorite or least favorite or players you have no emotions toward regardless, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. And then on the other side, you've got season-long drafts coming up for football games that make it so easy to run a team and just get a sweat watching Red Zone Channel or whatever. No waivers, no trades, no lineup setting. You draft a roster, and Underdog will take the highest scoring players, and those are your starters. You can do that for season long. You can do that for individual nights of games, like tonight. You got both basketball and hockey games. And you can find this app at it's UnderdogFantasy.com and the Underdog Fantasy app. So easy, Judd can use it.
That's and right, I have. Kids. Not as much as Declan does, but I've used it.
Yes.
Dex is all in every
NBA Finals.
Dex is just drenched with sweat constantly.
Just sweating, just watching. Just come on, Draymond Green,
I get
pull
more
down
notes.
one more rebound.
Al Horford, you suck.
I'm done with Al Horford.
I hate Al Horford. It's like, when
Yeah.
did you have a passion about Al Horford?
Dex sent a note with like 45 seconds left in that game saying, well, this is the last time I ever. Well, and he just needed one more 3 from Horford. Now, he didn't get it, but it was like, he could spot up in the corner.
I lost the apartment.
Yeah.
I lost the whole apartment already.
Promo code SCORE, SKOR, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100, and you can help us out too by using that promo code SKOR. Also, before we get to what people are saying about the Vikings, Judd has discovered he's got, Furious is definitely, the George Washington on the Mount Rushmore, but you may have found the Abe Lincoln on the Mount Rushmore, it sounds like.
Oh, I'm going to tell you right now. In fact, I'd like to tell you a little story about my Saturday evening, which was perfect. I went to the Twins game, and on the way home, I thought to myself, it is gorgeous outside. It's just a great night. And Judd Zolgad, who never sits outside, said, I'm going to sit outside and enjoy a beer. But what should I enjoy? And I didn't question the company because, of course, it was going to come from my friends at Surly Brewing. But I decided actually to return to the Furious, a tall boy can, which is my good friend Chip Scoggins can tell you. The tall boys are just outstanding. They're so damn good. I sat in the chair in my front yard with a Furious right beside me like a best friend who was returning home. The prodigal beer returned home. And I'm going to tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, the summer of Surly is right around the corner. And if you're not drinking a Surly, what are you doing? And of course, as you're sipping on that beer and enjoying it, well, show us your cans at Jay Zolgad on Twitter, because we always love to see people that are enjoying a Surly beer.
That's right. All right, what are people saying about the Minnesota Vikings? Like to scour the internet and just see what's national talking heads, people inside the building. This one comes from ESPN's Dan Graziano, who wrote outside the box landing spots for Baker Mayfield and or Jimmy Garoppolo. Mm-hmm. And this is a partial list of. This is Dan Graziano saying, this is a partial list of outside-the-box suggestions that he got when making calls around the league. So this is not just him saying, here's some teams I think would be outside-the-box ideas. These are people in the league saying, here's a team. What about this team over here? The Lions are on that list. Makes some sense. Mm-hmm. Jared Goff's not very good. That roster is getting a lot better. Jared Goff's not. The Saints are on the list. Jameis Winston, pretty unreliable coming off injury. Well, probably looking for another good quarterback in the room somewhere. Mm-hmm. And then the third team on the list is the Vikings for Baker Mayfield and or Jimmy Garoppolo. Here's the write-up. They're set this season with Kirk Cousins, but could move on from him after the year. This is an example of a place where Mayfield or Garoppolo wouldn't start right away, but could position themselves as the team starter in 2023, the way Winston did with the Saints in 2020. That could be possible elsewhere, including a couple other teams as well. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, I got a couple thoughts on this one. This is juicy. One, I do not think there's a chance it's going to happen with the Vikings and Baker, but let me tell you why I think it's juicy. Graziano is plugged in. He's not Shefty, but he's plugged in, okay? Have you noticed he must talk to people? So the opinion of Kirk around the league must be far more like what our opinion is.
Oh, yes.
Have you noticed how often that he talks to executives and they're always like, I don't know about Kirk. I mean, clearly, right? Because they're saying, Baker might fit in there eventually. So Graziano's not making stuff up. His sources clearly don't like Kirk, which I find to be just intriguing. Right or wrong, I find it intriguing. But let me tell you why I don't think there's any chance on God's green earth that this takes place. This current staff, O'Connell, Kwesi, are bending over, I think, farther backwards than Spielman did, not to offend Kirk.
Yeah.
And there is no way that they are going to go from Kirk's best friend. Mannion is going to make this roster to Baker Mayfield breathing down Kirk's neck. Because if you bring Baker in, the second that Kirk goes Kirk, what's going to happen? You're going to have calls for, well, just play Baker. Baker can play. So I think there is zero chance. I do find it interesting that Graziano's sources continually basically try to replace Kirk here.
I wish I could disagree. Yeah, you go ahead. Go first, Tex.
You can't take him obviously at that $19 million. It's like, I don't know what the Cleveland Browns are going to do there if they're just going to. I don't think they can just cut him. I mean, they would eat the $19 million. Like, maybe they could do that. So from the contract side, there's no way the Vikings will take him for the $19 million. Is basically what I'm trying to say. I'm not totally against it. You need a competent backup, and Sean Mannion's not going to be it. From Judd's observations so far, Kellen Mond ain't going to be it. You need a serviceable, decent backup. I brought up Drew Lock last year, and it was mocked. And now, look, Drew Lock is not going to be a guy who changes the game for you, but I feel better if you go into Lambeau and your quarterback's out with COVID or misses a game for whatever reason. I feel a lot better about Drew Lock starting than a Sean Mannion. And this Vikings history, we all know about backup quarterbacks, Case Keenum, Gus Frerotte. Other guys have stepped in when they've been asked, and they played well, Brad Johnson. So I think adding Baker, I'm not totally against it. I don't like his character, but I'm not against it because it would give you a little bit more security behind Kirk.
This is so out of left field. It doesn't make. This is where, on the surface, this makes zero sense for all the reasons that you guys mentioned. Namely, these guys both have the quarterbacks that they're talking about, Baker Mayfield and Jimmy Garoppolo. They both have 1 year left on their current contracts. Baker, $19 million. Jimmy is more than that. Jimmy's cap hit is $27 million this year. Now, there's only 1.4 in dead cap, and so I'd have to go dig deeper on, like, how much could you save if the Niners just cut him? But at this point, there's no value in saving cap space because you've already gone through free agency period and stuff. So they've kind of they've wasted an opportunity to clear some cap space. But to make these guys fit under your cap, if you're the Vikings, and I can't believe I'm even entertaining this, but you'd have to restructure them and smooth it out into future years. So you would basically be committing to Baker Mayfield or Jimmy Garoppolo beyond 2022 to what?
Makes no sense.
To replace a guy that you just signed to a 2-year, $80 million extension or whatever it is?
Yeah.
So the Vikings, this is the problem. Guys like Graziano and his sources and other people that look at the Vikings situation, I don't think they're wrong when they look and say, well, that's not, Kirk puts up numbers, but there's just something a little off about Kirk, and his teams tend to underachieve or gravitate toward 500. And so you should have your radar up for who the next guy might be. Like, try it again with Kirk, but, in this article he says, but they can move off him after the year. No, they can't. They can't move off him. Kirk has a full no trade clause through 2023.
Yep.
So the only way, and you can't cut him. So the only way that you can move off him is if he wants to and agrees to be traded. So I don't see this. I'd love to engage in this amazing reckless speculation and somehow, but I don't see a way financially. The Vikings aren't looking to bring competition in for Kirk unless it's a rookie that they draft in 2023 or something.
They ain't doing it this year. You're right.
So it just doesn't make sense why they're even on this list.
Well,
I wish I could entertain it more, but I can't see a path.
And this was the conversation that we certainly had before the Kirk extension, which is, okay, replace Kirk. Kirk's gone. You are not going to do what they are doing for Kirk currently and then bring in Baker or Garoppolo. You're not. Kirk would freak out. Like, they're doing everything they can to make Kirk comfortable. And to Declan's point, I'm going to tell you right now, if Kirk gets hurt, they're screwed. Like, they are screwed, but they know that. Like, they are basically banking on the fact that, to his credit, Kirk does not miss games.
But why? But why bank on that? It's not you're guaranteed in the NFL.
Because they don't want to make him uncomfortable. I mean, it's very clear I'm not saying I agree with what I just said. I just think it's very clear what they're doing.
Yeah, it's just, but like Sean Mannion had, and I'm preaching to the choir with you guys. Sean Mannion has proven that he is not capable of starting an NFL game against a halfway decent team. He can't.
Yep.
Look at his career. So he's okay. Cool. Let's get you into coaching here, Sean. Let's like if you said goodbye to Sean Mannion, would he be picked up for the season? Not an off-season not a training camp body, but would Sean Mannion be on someone else's 53-man roster in 2022? I don't think he would.
Probably not.
So he's an assistant coach?
Yeah, he is. Yes. He is, I believe, technically now the third Vikings quarterbacks coach.
Yeah.
I think they have two now.
So from that perspective, would it be nice to have, the backup quarterback is Jimmy Garoppolo, who's played in a Super Bowl, or Baker Mayfield? Yes, but logistically and everything else, it just doesn't, financially, doesn't make sense.
And if Kirk checks it down a couple times and they're not playing well, and all of a sudden you start to hear chants of, we want Jimmy, we want Jimmy. They're going to be like, oh, Kirk can't take that. Baker. I'm just saying.
I don't know.
Unfortunately, this team is, I think, going to very much probably go into the 2022 season with Cousins, Mannion, Mond, and that's what you're going to be with. And if Kirk gets hurt, you are just most definitely screwed.
We'll see. All right, tomorrow on Purple Daily, we will unveil 11 through 15 on the top 20 current Vikings list.
I feel like it's going to get dicier.
Can you do a mock of who you think 11 through 15 is?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like it's going to get dicier, though. I feel like there's going to come a time where there's going to be some brawls about this list.
Yeah. Are you ready to talk about Kirk Cousins on tomorrow's list?
Well, no, because he's 22. Because he's 22.
Yeah.
He didn't make your list.
I'm just trolling. Or am I? I trolling? Is he 12? Maybe he's 12.
He's 24. Don't lie. You're like, I got to put Cousins somewhere in the top 25, but he's not going to make the list.
I had, we should do another segment where like Judd or Phil fight with a random Cousins Crusader bot on Twitter on the show. I had someone tweet at me, yeah, the difference between Tom Brady and Kirk Cousins is Tom Brady's had halfway decent offensive lines. Like, if you've been watching football for the last 20 years and you think the difference between Tom Brady and Kirk Cousins is offensive line, I don't know how to help you.
No, nor should you.
And that was Phil fighting with a random Cousins Crusader from the internet here on Purple Daily, presented by our friends at Federated. Federated is all about maximizing team success with your business through risk management tools and resources. They've been around for over 100 years. Consider them a great offensive line for your business that grounds its culture in equity, integrity, teamwork, and respect. These four cornerstones create the foundation that supports all interactions and decision-making at Federated. FederatedInsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. All right, dudes. Off-season means no breaks for this show here. Purple Daily, daily Vikings entertainment. We'll see you tomorrow.